Hello world, let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, in a world not so far away, there was a boy who picked his nose. This boy believed he had treasures among treasures in his nose, and he picked until his heart was content. And his heart was never content, because his nose was never ever empty. He picked his nose in the hallways at school, he picked his nose at the theater while watching a movie, and he even picked his nose in the Starbucks takeout line. Now, when he was in the Starbucks takeout line, he saw this lady off to the side, and it was a lady his age, a beautiful lady in fact, with a long braid, with curly red hair, and a mole literally the shape of Montana right here on her cheek. So sitting there in the Starbucks takeout line, he rams out of the vehicle, he gets out, he takes off his seatbelt, he gets out of that vehicle, and he runs right up to the girl with the mole the shape of Montana, and he says to her, "Hey girl with the mole that's shaped like Montana, will you go out with me?" And the girl's just kind of sitting there, and she's really curious about what's going on. She looks from his eyes to his chin, but then her eye kind of elevates a little bit right up to his nose. And there, smack dab on his nose, is a finger inside of it, prying around in there, trying to explore for more treasures and find more goodness. And she's drinking her Starbucks coffee, as a girl outside of Starbucks would normally do, and she looks at Nose Pickin' Boy and she says, "I'll make you a deal." And he says, "Wow, alright, what's the deal?" And she says, "I will go out with you on one condition." And the boy is pumped. He says, I'll do anything, please, I'll do anything. I'd go to the moon and back for you." As she's stroking her Montana mole, she looks up at him and says, "I will go on a date with you as long as you stop picking your nose." And Pick Boy Nose was flabbergasted. He's like, "Stop picking my nose. That's all I genuinely care about in life. This is what I live for. I live for pulling out these treasures and for recycling them. I live for taking the pollution in the air, letting my nostrils be the filter, and then using the contents of the filter in order to fill my stomach." Now, you who's watching this, you might think this is really gross, and it is gross, and that's exactly why the Starbucks girl with the Montana mole said, "I would like to decline our date." Pick Nose Boy, he was like, how dare she? How dare she try to change me? How dare she try to not accept me as I am? How dare she be so close-minded to a boy who constantly, never-endingly picks his nose? And so he storms off. But little did he realize that the girl wasn't trying to change who he was. She just simply wanted the best for him. She wanted a world for this boy where he didn't constantly embarrass himself by picking his nose constantly, where he didn't eat regurgitated nostril fluids in order to get his daily fill. She wanted him to change the bad parts about him so that he can improve for the better. So here's my question to you. Which side are you on? Are you on the side of the Montana mole girl who said no to the date? Or are you on the side of Booger Boy who continued to eat his boogers until his last dying days? And after you answer that question in your head, let me ask you this. Do you eat boogers by the hour? Are you too stubborn to change something about yourself? And if you are holding on to something so stubborn that you won't let go of, are you ready to really date? That is my question today, and I'm going to be discussing 5 things you need to look at before you start dating on today's episode of Love Stories with Grady. Hola, I'm a 22-year-old boy who has never dated a girl longer than 22 hours, and this video is about not only helping educate you on what you can do to date a girl longer than 22 hours, but also to educate me. This book right here, chapter 5 or something like that, discusses this exact topic that I brought up in the very long-winded intro. I realize my series is called Love Stories with Grady, and I realize my other series are called Watching Stories with Grady, Reading Stories with Grady, or just plain and simple Stories with Grady. And I realized for most of my videos, I wasn't even necessarily telling you a story. I was just giving you a book report or fitting in a story near the end. So from now on, I'm going to be probably telling you a quick story in the beginning of the video in order to bring up the topic that I'll be discussing. So in case you did not know, Back in 1957, dating was a much bigger deal than it is now. Actually, in the book, it was funny because she was saying even at those times, 1957, it was starting to become a lot more casual, and people would just go out and hang out, and it would be a date. The author was like, yeah, in the olden days, you know, our great-grandparents, they, back in the day, took dating a lot more seriously. And I really resonated with the grandparents that were alive in 1957 because that is kind of my mindset, either to my benefit or to my harm, but that is another video topic. So let's get into the 5 things that Miss Evelyn Millis Duval back in the 1957s said that you needed to do before you start dating. If you're not dating someone right now, maybe you're missing one of these 5 key components. If you are dating someone right now, you might want to make sure that you have these 5 key components. Number uno. Social experience. All right, so the importance of social experience. What in the world does that mean? And I'll explain by giving you an example. In the past few months, I have been in one area and not left that one area for a very long time. And what I've noticed anytime this happens in my life, when I stay behind closed doors and don't necessarily interact with a lot of people live in my day-to-day life, is I start seeing my social skills slowly deteriorate, where I start stumbling over my words, exactly like that. Secondly, I didn't have a second thing to say on that point, which goes to show that maybe if I was talking to more people in actual conversations, I would be able to think on my feet a little bit more and know that I only had one thing to say. So my social skills go down when I don't interact with more people. And if you're in a situation like I am, you might feel the same way. It's important to keep yourself sharp, just like if you were a football player. It wouldn't make sense to not play football for 6 months and expect that right when you go back on the football field, you're the exact same football player as when you left. Same goes with social skills. Number 2 thing that you need to know if you want to date someone for an eternity. You need to grow new skills and grow new interests. Try new things. Go out and take a hike. Go out and watch a movie that you would never watch. Go out rollerblading. Go to a lake and try to touch the bottom with friends. Go skydiving, but instead of having a parachute of your own, do a trust fall where you're holding on to your best friend and you're relying on them to pull the parachute. Just try new things, because if you never try new things, you can't meet new people, you can't continue developing as a person, you can't keep growing and changing and learning. And if you never do any of those things, well, what are you going to do with the rest of your life, huh? What are you going to do when your special someone comes around and has all of these developed interests, and all you do is play Call of Duty from 3 to 6 a.m. in the morning? And that's all you know how to do. Number 3, you need some manners and you need some courtesy, all right? Hold that door open for someone, I don't care who you are. Or make sure that you're not eating with your fingers. I don't care if you're 10-year-old Grady who really wants to eat with his hands. No, don't do it. And I don't even care if you're Booger Boy trying to ask a Montana mole out on a date, all right? I would say have some manners and have some courtesy. Number 4, be attractive and be presentable. Now, you don't need to be walking out the house like a Photoshop supermodel 100% of the time. You don't necessarily need makeup when you leave the house. You don't need your hair gelled 100% of the time. But here is what you do need: a little self-respect. Act like the picture that's going to be taken of you right there in public is going to be broadcast in front of the whole nation in tomorrow's newspaper. And being presentable is something I'm really bad at. Like, I sit down in front of this camera and I'm somewhat presentable, right? But here's what I normally look like, you know? And here's why this is important. If you're looking like a scraggly chihuahua on his hind legs walking around the public Cub Foods in that ketchup aisle where you're gonna meet your wife, you really think the girl who's gonna be your wife in the ketchup aisle is gonna stop to notice you? I don't think so. That was number 5. I don't think I said that, but that was number 5. And here's my bonus little tip for you. Stop using "if only I had blank" excuses. If only I had a nice car, I would have a girlfriend. If only I had money, I would have a boyfriend. If only I was famous, I would have the girl of my dreams or the boy of my dreams. No. False. That's just an excuse. If you have these type of excuses, I dare you to go try to act as if you already were at this place and try to win the girl or win the boy that you want, and then see what happens. So here is the overall point, friends. If you want to get a girl or if you want to get a boy, stop picking your nose. Start doing those 5 to 6 things that I mentioned, because I had that little bonus little entry about excuses in there. And live your life to the fullest. See what happens. I know I could probably... Oh. I missed one. Technically, number 3 was supposed to be having maturity. If you want to have a good relationship, you need to know what you want to have in a relationship. You have to know why you even want a relationship. Do you want a relationship because you feel lonely at night? Do you want a relationship because you've seen all of the rom-coms say that's the pretty cool thing to have? Do you want a relationship because all your friends have a relationship? Do you want a relationship because you want to be able to put on your profile that you're dating Miss Bulgaria? If you don't know why you want a relationship, and if you don't have a good reason, you're probably not likely ready for a relationship. I apologize for my misnumbering of things because I had things in bullets instead of numbers, so oops. Now before you go, I have a few homework assignments of a few things that you should do before you start dating. Number 1, you should subscribe to this channel, because if you want to date a good person, you need to watch some good content. Number 2, you should comment below that you watched near the end, and if you're more like Booger Boy or Montana Mole Girl. And number 3, I dare you to watch another Love Stories with Grady episode. That's all I have for you. I was gonna sign out by saying ba da ba ba ba, but I'm pretty sure ba da ba 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 is copyright, so sue me, McDonald's. Ba da ba ba ba. Bye.